Hello there. Today I'm taking a look at a lovely mature Pinot Noir from Chile. The producer is Casa Marin. This is their Lo Abarca Hills Vineyard Pinot Noir and the vintage is 2012. So a wine with a little bit of age, and it'll be interesting to see how that's developed. The San Antonio Valley is a cool climate, coastal wine producing region in Chile. It's about 90 kilometers west of the capital Santiago and is south of the better known cool climate producing region, the Casablanca Valley. Casa Marin were one of the 4 founding wineries for this wine region, and they're based in Lo Abarca, which is one of the 3 sub-regions within the San Antonio Valley. The other 2 being the Leda Valley and El Rosario. The region only has a winter rainfall of about 200 millimeters a year, and that's really not sufficient to sustain the growth of vines and the production of grapes, and therefore irrigation is required, and thus the construction of a pipeline bringing irrigation water from the Maipo River in 1998 was essential to winemaking here, and that's a pipeline that's 8 kilometers long, about 5 miles. And the capacity of that pipeline obviously limits the capacity to produce grapes in this region. So it's, in terms of production, it's a relatively small producing region at present. The climate here is significantly modified by its proximity to the ocean. These vineyards are about 4 kilometers away from the sea. And here you have quite a deep ocean, and that ocean is cooled by the Humboldt Current, bringing cooler water up from Antarctica. So as well as the proximity to the ocean moderating temperatures here, also morning mists tend to be produced, and that bit of cloud cover helps to cool the region. And in fact, throughout the growing season, the average temperature here in the San Antonio Valley is only something like about 14 degrees Celsius. Casa Marin was founded in 2000 by Maria Luz Marín, and Maria is something of a pioneer in terms of being one of the first women to found and run a winery and to be the winemaker. Today her 2 sons Felipe and Nicholas join her in the business. Now Nicholas manages operations in the vineyard and coordinates tourism, whereas Felipe has trained as a viticulturist. He trained in Sonoma and then learned to make wine in New Zealand. So he covers the grape growing and winemaking. Now the Lo Abarca Hills surround the town of Lo Abarca, as I say, in very close proximity to the sea. The soils are predominantly chalk, limestone, with some underlying granite, and Casa Marin's vineyards here are all certified as being managed with using sustainable viticulture. Solar panels at the winery ensures that 100% of their energy use is from renewables, and they're currently working towards having a 0 carbon status. Yields for this wine are kept low at something like 3 to 4 tonnes per hectare, and the fruit is hand-picked and hand-selected, and it's taken to the winery in 18 kg baskets just to make sure that it's not crushed and the fruit isn't damaged prior to vinification. The fruit's all destemmed, crushed, and spends 4 days doing a pre-fermentation cold soak just to extract colours and perfumes in an environment that's more delicate than later on once fermentation started and there's a presence of alcohol to act as an extractant. Indigenous yeasts are allowed to start spontaneous fermentation, and 3 times a day the cap of skins is pushed back down into the fermenting must. The wine is moved to oak barrels just before fermentation has finished so that it can complete its fermentation, its malolactic conversion in barrel, and that helps to marry the notes of the wood to that of the fruit. Now only about 20% of the oak that this was aged in were new barrels, so that should give relatively gentle oak flavours. For the first 3 months that the wine aged, its lees were left in the wine and were regularly stirred up. In all, the wine was aged in barrel for 16 months. When it was finally bottled, it was bottled without any form of filtration. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? First of all, its colour is a fairly dark ruby. It's not particularly deep. I can see through it very easily. When I swirl it though, however, you're getting sort of some quite brick red notes at the edge where there's less density of wine. So yeah, brick red, almost tawny in places. So let's see what we make of the aroma, shall we? The aromas are rich and savoury. There are earthy, truffle, forest floor notes of development in there, but also some quite ripe fruit. But that's not sort of necessarily ripe red fruit, that's more sort of ripe, rich, dried fruit, notes of raisin, notes of fig, notes of sultana. They're almost developed notes of sort of candied peel, those sort of notes of advanced age. So let's have a taste. On the palate, that's quite firm. It's very well structured. The time it's spent in oak has really fixed that very fine tannic structure. It's giving quite a bit of grip. There's a little bit of bitterness on the centre of my tongue there, but at the same time there's also a sort of a smooth, drying cocoa powder sort of note to the front palate. There's reasonable acidity. I can feel my mouth watering at the sides there, and where that's going on, there's some sort of juicy, dark, ripe cherry and darker red plum fruit coming through, but it is that sort of juicy, lovely acidity that's fresh and quite lively. It's on the finish that you see some sort of quite savoury licorice, truffle and dried leaves development notes. I think that's a wine that's showing some quite high maturity and yet still has some vibrancy to its fruit. I think this is drinking beautifully now. I don't think it needs time to age, but if you wanted to, I think this probably has another 4 or 5 years quite happily before it's likely to decline. However, even now it's providing quite a good example of a mature, fairly ripe, relatively rich Pinot Noir. So thank you so much for joining us. I do hope you found the tasting of interest. If you've enjoyed it, please do press the like button. If you'd like to watch more of these videos, it would be fantastic if you'd consider signing up to our YouTube channel, and that way you can set yourself a notification and be warned every time we publish a new video. If you have any comments you'd like to leave, please pop those in the feedback box below. We would actually really like to know what you think about the wines we're looking at, the tastings we're doing, or anything else that relates to that. If you have any friends you think might like to watch the video, do please feel free to pass it on to them. We'd really appreciate your endorsement of our tasting in that way. I will leave a link in the notes below to the Wine Searcher webpage for this vintage of this wine, so that you can see where in your market it's available and at what price, assuming it is of course, and then you can also use the tabs on that page to find out more about the producer, the region, the grape variety, any winemaking notes we have. There's a price history there, there's a vintage comparison section. You can find out what the critics have had to say and what scores it's gained. You can also see any awards it's won and any comments that other users on Wine Searcher have left there as well. So hopefully that's a really good place for you to gain all the information you could possibly need to make an informed decision about buying this wine. So thank you so much for joining us, and I do hope that at some stage in the very near future you'll manage to make some time and come and join us for another video tasting. Till then, bye for now.